Welcome back to Loch Ness Exploration. The 16th of January marks the first visit of many throughout 2024. It's been a while since my last update, and I apologise for that. Better late than never. So hope everyone is doing well and looking forward to another exciting year at Loch Ness. In this video and together, we'll be exploring the purpose of my visit, who I was with, what I observed, and what experience genuinely left us speechless. So let's get started. A few days ahead of my departure, I asked our L&E members to suggest any Loch Ness related podcasts that would keep me company on my journey north. Some recommendations were put forward, but in the end I discovered that Gareth Williams and his book A Monstrous Commotion had now been added to Spotify as an audiobook. I need to be honest, I haven't turned a single page from this book in several years, so my memory on certain chapters was somewhat clouded. Whilst working my way through the audiobook, I came across a fascinating section dedicated to Urquhart Bay and our understanding of the environment below the surface. In 1970, detailed underwater mapping using sophisticated sonar scanner had picked up features which the bathymetrical survey had missed. The floor of Urquhart Bay wasn't this gentle sloping shelf that people believed. Instead, they found an astonishing underwater landscape, filled with ridges, canyons over 400 feet deep in places, and caverns, some of which were big enough to conceal an animal up to 30 feet in length. There may not be any hidden or undiscovered trenches at the bottom of Loch Ness, but there's certainly some interesting and daunting terrain within Urquhart Bay itself, and the idea of canyons reaching over 400 feet deep is rather exciting. But do they actually exist? Thanks to the effort of those who have came before us, we can now view and explore Urquhart Bay from several different perspectives. For example, I've highlighted 2 points of interest here, and at first glance we can't see anything, or anything significant. It's just a low surface. But if we introduce transition, we can now create this beautiful image. Point A and Point B clearly highlights what appears to be 2 large caverns, or canyons, running straight down towards the bottom of the loch. Are these the caverns that were discovered during the early 70s? Do they actually reach beyond 400 feet? When in doubt, the best people to ask are Adrian Shine and Raynor, who have both spent a significant amount of time exploring Urquhart Bay. Both Adrian and Dick confirmed that Urquhart Bay does have large river-cut channels leading down into the main trench of the loch. This was again highlighted when the Loch Ness Project was working in collaboration with SIMRAD in 1987, and more recently with KONGSBERG's mooning in 2016. The depth of the caverns reaching 400 feet deep may have been exaggerated purely for the purpose of making minor depth changes visible on charts. Despite these exaggerations, if any, the environment and the elements within are in constant motion with one another and are slowly altering the terrain. The main architect behind the creation of these caverns rests with the rivers that enter Urquhart Bay. The highest river flows are often caused by heavy rainfall or during the winter months when the snow begins to melt. Adrian also explained that the water flowing into the loch is far colder than the water in Urquhart Bay. Therefore, the current actually flows beneath the surface and avoids the warmer layers of the loch. Isn't that just incredible, how a river current entering the loch could impact the terrain hundreds of feet below the surface within Urquhart Bay? I find that mind-blowing. As it stands today, without the proper support, technology and funding, then it will be extremely difficult to reach and explore these caverns. Difficult, but not impossible. When I finally reached Loch Ness, it was a complete whiteout and absolutely stunning. I first met with Adrian just moments after my arrival, and as always, it was great catching up with him. We'd arranged that night to meet up so we could explore our previous hydrophone recordings together, but sadly due to the heavy snowfall, we had to rearrange. After speaking with Adrian, it was time to meet up with Amy Todd and others from the Loch Ness Centre. We discussed future plans and some exciting new developments heading our way, which all sounds really positive and promising. And in time, hopefully I'll be able to share some exciting news with everybody. One thing that I can share with everyone at this moment is that the Loch Ness Centre has very kindly provided me with my very own office space. From here I can build positive working relationships, form partnerships with those who want to come explore Loch Ness, and of course I'll be able to continue our long study and research with the hydrophone. If someone told me 3 years ago that I'd be following the footsteps of those who have inspired me over the years, I simply would have said dream on. It's an absolute privilege to be playing a small role in this incredible journey, and for that I will be forever grateful. Before we explore our night at Temple Pier, I would like to share something that I observed during my surface watch just north of Arcot Bay. Those who have invested a serious amount of time exploring and researching Loch Ness will most likely be able to tell the difference between natural phenomena and phenomena that might make us think twice. Individuals who are visiting Loch Ness for the day, or perhaps the long weekend, might not always be aware just how deceiving the loch can actually be. But don't get me wrong, over the years we've had reports from locals who have spent their entire lives at Loch Ness and reporting something strange within the water. But even they can get it wrong now and again, and their report can easily be identified or explained. I was able to capture a boat wake that was present and in motion for a long period of time travelling down the loch, and it got me thinking about a previous encounter. I'm going to play a very brief eyewitness report over my footage, and together we'll see if it's relevant or not.
That particular night, it was very calm, the loch. It was like a mill pond, and there was no boat to be seen for miles. Well, whilst I was bathing the children that evening, I looked out of the window and saw a large wake, some half a mile long, and I wondered what it was, because it wasn't like a boat wake. It was like something was protruding out of the water. It lasted for some 10-15 minutes.
So can we identify the culprit here? Yes, I believe we can. By the time the boat wake reached the shoreline, this boat in particular was over 1.5 miles away. Now this being the summer, and I very much doubt that the boat would have been visible from where I was standing, but luckily for me, this was the winter, with little to no leaves on the trees, and therefore my view wasn't obscured. Wakes with no boats in sight are actually very common in Loch Ness, and they can vary in size for a number of different factors. Another great example to use is footage from one of the webcams, which was recently recorded and shared by James Kipwood. Now take what you want from these examples, but it certainly demonstrates how the loch and present boat wakes can be so misleading. Do these examples explain every wake reported by an eyewitness? No. But if it's not boats creating wakes, then what are we looking at? Could it be the wildlife, our weather, and the elements? Or perhaps it is the Loch Ness Monster? I'll leave the ball in your court, and as always, you can decide for yourself. So let's explore the sound that left us speechless during our night recording at Temple Pier. For those who joined me during my live stream on Facebook, then you would have noticed that I wasn't alone. A Dutch film crew had asked me to take part in their documentary, and of course I said yes. So let me introduce you to Marv, Christopher, Remy and Jardy. It was genuinely good fun, and these guys were great company to be around. Whilst discussing natural behaviour and how it fits into the Loch Ness mystery, we were interrupted by a strange sound which was captured on the hydrophone and recorded on film. So let's take a listen and watch our reaction. But in reality, all it is, it's wind turbulence coming down from the surrounding hills, hitting the loch. As you can see, it certainly caught us off guard. Well, it certainly caught me off guard anyway. But what caused this sound? And would it be possible to identify the source? There's a variety of possible explanations, and we should consider all candidates, regardless whether it's likely or not. We need to consider electrical interference from nearby devices or buildings, the wildlife in and around the loch itself, human activity, was it us, or perhaps someone was on a night drift, weather conditions, calm or restless, both above or below the surface, methane gas rising and escaping from the bottom of the loch, a sudden rush of water, and yes, your eyes are not deceived, that is a toilet being flushed, and of course, it may well be the elusive Loch Ness Monster. I've conducted multiple hydrophone recordings at Temple Pier throughout the day and during the night. What I find really interesting is that I haven't heard this particular sound during the daylight hours, but I've heard something similar several times throughout the night recordings, but never this clear. We need to remember that my research with the hydrophone is going to take years, and I'm okay with that, but finding the correct answers might prove more difficult. That being said, I do enjoy a good challenge. As always, I appreciate your time and your support, and we'll see you at the next one when we visit Loch Ness.